I used to think the worst part of dying was the moment your body gives up. Now I know the worst part is waking up and realizing someone was counting on you not to. Hi, my name's Emily. I'm 28. And I survived a car crash that was supposed to kill me. 4 days. That's how long I was unconscious in the ICU. Tubes down my throat. Blood transfusions. A metal plate inserted near my hip. I flatlined once, they said. Just once. But when I came to, she was there. My mom. Holding my hand. Sobbing. Whispering how God gave me a second chance. Stroking my hair like I was 5 years old again. I believed her. For those first few days, I cried when she did. I told her thank you. I let her feed me, bathe me, change the bandages on my legs. My pelvis was shattered. I couldn't even use the bathroom without help. I was a ghost in a body that still hurt to own. But she was there. Warm, devoted, ever-present. You're gonna walk again, she whispered one night, brushing my hair. I don't know how to be without you, I whispered back. I meant it. And I meant it because I had no one else. No partner. No siblings. My dad died when I was 16. My friends? They scattered after college, you know how it goes. New cities, new lives. I was alone. She moved me into her house after discharge. The same childhood home I swore I'd never live in again. But at the time, it felt like safety. Like forgiveness for all the years we'd fought, resented, disconnected. And maybe I owed her this. That's what I told myself the first night I lay flat on the recliner, propped up on medical pillows, unable to roll over without crying. She tucked a blanket around my feet and said, "This is what family's for." But you ever notice how help starts feeling like ownership? Like you're no longer a person, just a project someone won't let you leave? The first sign wasn't a scream. Or a slap. It was a phone call. The bank. "You've missed a payment of $2,400, said the man. Calm. Robotic. I stared at the ceiling, the call on speaker. What payment? I croaked. I could barely sit up. My ribs still ached. I hadn't touched a computer in weeks. I didn't even have my phone. She said she was keeping it safe for me. "Ma'am, the statement shows a recent credit card issued under your name." I hung up. Called again. Same result. And that's when something broke open inside me, not pain. Not grief. Suspicion. I asked Mom about it that night. Softly. Cautiously. She didn't even blink. Just stirred the soup and said, "Oh honey, don't make a big deal. I needed a few things. It's not like you were using your money anyway." She smiled. Like it was normal. Like it was love. I didn't argue. I nodded. Drank the soup. Swallowed the burn behind my eyes. You ever sit across from someone feeding you with one hand while stealing everything with the other? Because that night, I finally saw her clearly. And the next morning, I started pretending. That I didn't know how online banking worked. That I couldn't remember my passwords. That I was too dizzy to leave the house alone. But in secret, I wrote everything down. Passwords. Logins. Account numbers. I even memorized the customer service extensions. It wasn't much, but it was something. Because I knew what I was now. Not a daughter. Not a patient. A hostage with good credit. The spoon she fed me with that night? I found it the next day on my nightstand, polished. Balanced perfectly on top of a credit card statement. Like a message I wasn't supposed to read. What if the person helping you heal is also the reason you're broken? I know what you're thinking. That I should have run then. But tell me, where do you go when your body can't take you? I took the statement, folded it once, and tucked it into my bandage wrap. Like a secret wound. 3 nights later, while she slept, I turned on her laptop. And what I found wasn't just theft. It was premeditated. I wish I could tell you I was shocked. But the moment I opened that laptop, it didn't feel like discovery. It felt like confirmation. She'd been using my identity like a mask she could put on and peel off whenever she wanted. The tabs were still open: online loan applications, fake verification PDFs, autofill data from my bank app. She even copied my signature onto a blank form using a stylus. There was a note in one folder, backdate if needed. "Emily won't notice." I just sat there staring at it. My body still broken. My mouth still wired with painkillers. And suddenly it hit me. She never expected me to wake up. And if I did, she never expected me to be smart enough to notice. The next morning, she made me eggs. The soft kind, the way I liked them as a kid. "You slept okay?" she asked, kissing my forehead. I smiled. "Yeah. Better." You ever realize someone rehearsed how to love you? That their kindness is just a script they recite between crimes? Over the next week, I kept watching, listening, not just to her words, but to the gaps between them. She never let me touch my phone. She insisted on helping me log into my email. She told the pharmacist I was mentally foggy. When they asked if I needed to approve the insurance form, I played along, nodded slowly, let my hands tremble. "You're doing so good, Em," she kept saying. But I could hear the panic underneath. Because every day I got stronger was a day closer to losing control. Then one afternoon I heard her in the kitchen, talking on the phone. I just need it clear before the 15th. No, she won't ask questions. She trusts me. She's too weak right now. The 15th. I circled it on the paper calendar next to my bed. That night, I asked her to bring me my baby album from the closet. Told her I wanted to feel something real. She smiled. But it took her an hour to find it. When she finally handed it over, it was warm. Like she'd been holding it too long. I flipped through old photos. Me in kindergarten. Halloween costumes. My dad holding me up to a tire swing. And then tucked inside the sleeve behind my third-grade picture, a receipt. For a 75-inch TV. Paid for in full. Under my name. 2 weeks after the crash. It wasn't even subtle. She was using me like a trust fund she didn't have to earn. Like she deserved my life because she gave me one. And yeah, maybe that sounds harsh. But you ever watch someone call what they stole a sacrifice? Because she kept saying things like, I had to do it. You'll understand when you're a mother. Or, it's all for you. So you can be comfortable. Comfortable? I still had stitches. I couldn't even sit up in bed without seeing stars. And she was buying electronics and calling it compassion. Would you call it love if someone only held you when they needed something? I started documenting everything. Each fake transaction. Each login attempt. Each statement she tore up before I could read it. I even recorded her voice one night, whispering, she's not thinking straight. I'm the one keeping everything together. I emailed the audio to myself under a fake account name. Justin_case92. Because by then I knew what this was. Not just betrayal. Not just manipulation. It was financial abuse. And maybe that sounds clinical, but it felt like drowning in my own name. The final straw wasn't the debt. Or the lies. It was the wheelchair. She ordered one for me. Without asking. Said I'd never walk the same. So might as well accept it. I remember sitting on the porch that day. Feeling the breeze on my arms, trying to imagine never walking again. Then I turned and saw the delivery receipt. It wasn't billed to my insurance. It was billed to me. Another loan. Another signature. Another trap disguised as love. That night I wheeled myself into the bathroom, locked the door and cried into a towel so she wouldn't hear me. Not because I felt helpless, but because I finally knew she needed me helpless. I looked in the mirror and saw my face, pale, healing, unfamiliar. But taped to the top corner of the glass was a sticky note in her handwriting. You're getting better every day, 2 hearts. Right below it, in faded ink, was the bank's overdraft notice she tried to hide. You ever wonder if someone was counting on your pain? Not to fix it, but to live off it? I ripped that sticky note off the mirror and found another one behind it. April 15th, Chase auto loan due. That's when I decided I wasn't waiting till I could walk. I was leaving while I still couldn't, so she wouldn't see it coming. There's a different kind of pain that comes when your body starts healing before your life does. By week 6, I could stand on my own just for a minute. She didn't know that. I practiced at night when she was asleep, holding onto the side of the bed, the dresser, the wall, shaking like a leaf, quiet as death. She thought I was still helpless, still her patient, still her puppet. But I had a plan, and I needed one more thing to pull it off. I waited until she left to run errands, which meant more shopping on my name. Then I dragged myself, slow, careful, silent, to the hall closet. Behind the old Christmas boxes was a black tote bag. Inside, my phone, dead but there. And taped to the back of the case, my driver's license and debit card. She'd hidden them, kept them close. Probably told herself she was protecting me. But the truth? She was stockpiling my life in case I didn't want it anymore. That night, I pretended to be extra groggy. Fake dizzy spells. Let her feed me again. Poor thing, she whispered. Still so fragile. She didn't know I'd already downloaded a fraud report packet. Didn't know I was texting with a women's support shelter under a fake name. Didn't know I was mapping every public bus line that ran near our street. I was weak but not powerless. Then came April 15th. I woke to her humming in the kitchen. Smell of cinnamon toast. The sun was too bright. Like it knew something I didn't. Big day, she said, handing me my pills with juice. I nodded. Swallowed. Smiled. 2 hours later, I called a lift from the neighbor's Wi-Fi. I didn't even pack. Just rolled out of the house on crutches, took one last look at the porch, and told myself, this is not home. This is hostage decor. The driver didn't ask questions. He didn't flinch when I said, just drive. The shelter was smaller than I expected, clean, quiet, kind-eyed people who didn't blink at my limp. But when the intake woman pulled up my credit record, her eyes narrowed. Emily, she said slowly, did you know there's a mortgage inquiry under your name? My mouth went dry. What? She turned the screen toward me. There it was. A pending pre-approval. Filed 2 days earlier. Not for this house. For a condo. In her name, using my credit. She wasn't just stealing from me. She was building a new life on top of my broken one. You ever feel grief and fury at the same time? Like mourning the death of someone while realizing they're still alive. I didn't sleep that night. Filed the fraud case. Blocked every account. Requested new IDs. Set my phone to auto-forward any message from her to a folder marked evidence. She called 17 times. Then the messages started. Please come home. I'm scared without you. They'll take everything from me if you don't fix this. And finally, you owe me this. I saved your life. What if saving your life was just someone's way of collecting interest? The next day, I limped into the bank branch in person. Explained everything. Showed the reports. The texts. The medical files. The manager was sympathetic. Kind. But not helpful. She's your mother, he said. She had access. We can't prove coercion. My jaw clenched. I was unconscious, I said. She forged my name. He paused. Then added quietly. We see this more than you think. I walked out of that bank holding a fraud packet in one hand and a paper statement in the other. My name. Her address. A charge for an Amazon order, family room renovation. She was rebuilding her life with bricks made of my credit. I spent the next 2 weeks in a hostel. Shared bathroom. Bad lighting. One window that barely opened. But I could breathe. I could lock the door. Sleep without checking if she was standing in the doorway. Eat food I bought with money I earned. Until the voicemail. It came on a Tuesday. I was folding laundry, real life still wobbling under my feet. Her voice shaky. Emily, the cops came. Someone tipped off Child Protective Services about the kids I watch sometimes. Said I was a danger. They think it was you. Why are you doing this to me? And then quieter. I told them you're unstable. That you've been confused since the accident. My hand clenched so hard I crushed the detergent bottle. Because now I knew. She wasn't trying to fix this. She was preparing to bury me under it. You ever realize someone didn't just betray you, they planned the cover-up too? I played the voicemail again. And again. Until I could hear the lie settle into her voice like a second skin. That's when I made the second call. Not to the police. Not to my lawyer. To the one person who always believed me before anyone else did. My father's sister. And when I told her everything, she said 6 words I'll never forget. Emily, this wasn't her first time. It's strange how silence doesn't feel like peace at first. It feels like abandonment. The hostel was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps in the hallway. No soft voice asking if I took my meds. No stolen glances at my phone screen. And yet every night, I triple-check the locks. Because when someone invades your trust that deeply, even freedom feels like a trick. My Aunt Teresa picked me up the next morning. She cried when she saw me in a way that made me realize I hadn't cried for myself yet. She didn't ask if I was exaggerating. Didn't tell me to call my mom. Didn't suggest maybe it was just a misunderstanding. She just said, Emily, you're safe now. We drove 2 hours out of the city to her place, a little single level with a red porch and hummingbird feeders. She set up the guest room, made tea, let me cry. Then sat across from me and told me the story no one else had ever said out loud. My mom had done something similar to her older sister. Back in the early 2000s. Only that time it was Social Security fraud and a fake disability claim. No one pressed charges. They were family. She's always had a way of rewriting history, Aunt Teresa said. And she's always used people who couldn't fight back. You ever find out the person who raised you was a repeat offender with a Mother of the Year mask? For the first time in months, I had a real bed. A quiet place. Somewhere I didn't flinch every time the phone buzzed. I was recovering. I started therapy. Got a job at a bookstore 2 towns over, part-time, enough to cover groceries and pay a little toward the debt. That's the thing people don't tell you about surviving. You don't just walk away clean. You walk away bleeding money, hope, trust. People at work thought I was so strong. Said things like, you must have such a great mom to have helped you through that accident. I smiled. Said, yeah, she really pulled me through. Because how do you explain that the same woman who washed your hair was robbing you blind? That she didn't want you to heal, she wanted you to depend on her forever? Would you rather be loved conditionally, or not at all? Then came the letter. It wasn't from her. Not directly. It was from her lawyer. A cease and desist accusing me of slander, harassment, and deliberate emotional harm. They demanded I retract the fraud reports. Threatened to pursue charges for false allegations. I sat at the kitchen table, the pages trembling in my hands. Aunt Teresa leaned over my shoulder, took one look, and said, she's trying to break your spine before you learn how to stand. I pinned the letter to the fridge next to my physical therapy schedule. The legal threats right next to Tuesday, ankle mobility, 9 a.m. Because both were reminders I was still rebuilding. I hired a legal aid attorney. Pro bono. Young, determined, probably underpaid. He said something I'll never forget. You're not just her daughter. You were her income stream. That hit harder than the crash. Weeks passed. I got stronger. Started going on walks. Cooking again. Laughing. But sometimes I'd catch myself looking over my shoulder in a grocery store. Or scanning emails twice just to be sure nothing accidentally changed. I didn't feel like myself. I felt like a version of me she hadn't finished erasing. One morning I took all the old documents, the fake loans, the duplicate logins, the emails she wrote in my name, and made 3 copies. One for my lawyer. One for the bank. And one I burned in a fire pit out back. Because I didn't need the paper to remember. But I needed the moment to move on. You ever feel like you escaped, but your shadow's still trapped? I held that cease and desist letter over the flame and watched her words curl and vanish. The next day my phone lit up. Unknown number. Voicemail. It was her voice again. Only this time she wasn't begging. She was crying. And what she said. I lost the house. And it's your fault. There's a kind of silence you feel inside your body. Not peaceful. Not numb. Just distant. That's how I felt hearing her voice again. Trembling. Blaming. Like she hadn't bulldozed my name, my credit, my trust. Like I was the reason her life was collapsing. Emily, she sobbed on the voicemail, they're taking the house. I begged the bank, your bank, but they won't listen. I needed time. Just time. Just time. The same time I spent relearning how to walk. The same time she spent applying for loans under my name while stirring soup in my hands. Aunt Teresa said, don't respond. My lawyer said, she's trying to bait you. It's a strategy. But part of me needed to hear it. Needed to look her in the eye. Because the woman in my memories wasn't this thief in a mother's mask. I needed proof she was never the person I thought she was. So I called her back. We met at a diner halfway between our towns. Neutral ground. She wore oversized sunglasses and cried before she even sat down. The waitress brought water. She waved it away like it offended her. Then she looked at me, really looked, and said, "You look healthy." "That's good. I was afraid you'd never get better." I nodded. She added softer, "I'm sorry. I really thought you might die." Then she reached into her purse. Pulled out a folded piece of paper. A printed repayment agreement. Typed out. With blanks for me to sign. "This is just temporary," she said. "You're working now. You can help me keep the utilities on." I stared at her. "You want me to pay you back?" She looked hurt. Offended even. "I was your caretaker, Emily. No one else stepped in. Not your father's sister. Not your friends. Just me." You ever sit across from someone who hurt you and realize they still think they deserve a thank you? I pushed the paper back across the table. "I'm not signing that." Her jaw clenched. "You're punishing me," she said, louder now. "You're letting your anger ruin our family." She looked around. Lowered her voice. "You know I didn't mean to hurt you. I just needed things. And you weren't using your accounts. Like my coma was an opportunity. Like my recovery was an inconvenience." I reached into my coat and pulled out something of my own. The photo from my 3rd grade album. The one with the receipt tucked behind it. "Do you remember this?" I asked. She blinked. "Oh honey, that was just a coincidence. You're blowing things out of proportion." I smiled. And then I stood up. "I don't owe you anything," I said. Her voice caught. "Em, don't do this. I'm your mother." I looked down at the photo in my hand. "Then act like one." And I walked out. Would you let someone back in just because they share your blood? I didn't cry in the car. Didn't rage. Didn't even replay her voicemail like I used to. Because the thing about manipulation is once you see it, it can't touch you the same way. The next morning she texted. "I forgive you. I know you're not well yet. Maybe one day you'll thank me." No apology. No ownership. Just the same rewriting of reality. But I didn't respond. I deleted her message while staring out the kitchen window, the mug in my hand steaming, my brace resting on the table and used. That was the last time we spoke. She lost the house. The bank froze the accounts. The fraud investigation continued. And I kept walking. Not just physically, but forward. Every day. Without her voice in my ear. You ever realize that walking away isn't the hardest part? It's staying gone once they start begging. She saved me once. Then she made me pay for it forever. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Not from her. From the insurance company. She'd filed a caregiver reimbursement claim under my name for $9,200. Dated the week after my accident. You think once you cut someone off, the story ends. But no one warns you about the ripple. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was my aunt, the bank, my job, even strangers online, all suddenly holding pieces of the story. All of them asking, "Are you sure she meant to hurt you?" Maybe she was just scared. Family does things out of love, even if it's messy. Love? Love doesn't file a $9,200 insurance claim while you're in a coma. Love doesn't call you unstable to cover their fraud. Love doesn't tell the world you're confused because you finally said no. The insurance letter arrived certified. Heavy envelope. Official language. She claimed she dedicated 6 weeks of full-time care for her disabled dependent daughter and was now requesting retroactive compensation due to emotional distress and financial burden. You ever feel like someone took your worst moment and turned it into their paycheck? I called the claims rep, explained everything. He sighed. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. But unless you press charges, it's a civil matter. So she can just do this? He hesitated. She can try. What if staying silent means giving them permission to rewrite the truth? I forwarded the letter to my lawyer. He filed a formal objection. But the damage wasn't just legal, it was emotional. Because now every phone call from an unknown number made my hands sweat. Every time the doorbell rang, I flinched. She was everywhere and nowhere. And the world still called her mom. And then came the Facebook post. A family friend screenshotted it and sent it to me. It breaks my heart when your own child turns on you after you saved her life. But God sees the truth. I'm still praying for her healing. She added a photo of us from 5 years ago, her arm around me laughing. The comments flooded in. You're such a strong mother. Some kids are just ungrateful. I hope she realizes what she lost. Publicly, she was the saint who nursed me back to life. Privately, she was stealing from me while I couldn't lift my head. And now the world had picked a side based on a filtered photo and a Bible verse. I thought about responding. Thought about uploading the evidence, the bank statements, the fake claim, the voicemail. But then I remembered something my therapist said. You don't have to bleed in public to prove you were wounded. So I stayed quiet. Blocked her profile. Let the narrative unravel without me. Instead of replying, I filed a final statement to the insurance board. Attached the medical records. Dated photos. Proof of timelines. And at the bottom in bold, I never asked for care. I never authorized reimbursement. I was unconscious. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Claim denied. No apology. No retraction. Just a quiet end to her attempt to profit from my pain. Still, the fallout kept rippling. My mom's sister, who never called me in years, left a voicemail. You've embarrassed the family. Your mom's not perfect, but she didn't deserve this. She's homeless now. And you? You're living off your aunt like a leech. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Then I blocked the number. Because survival isn't always about fighting. Sometimes it's about refusing to be dragged back into the fire. You ever stop defending yourself, not because you gave up, but because you finally knew you didn't owe anyone an explanation? That night, I opened a locked box in Aunt Teresa's closet, the one she used to keep her family regrets. Inside was a photo of her and my mom, young and smiling. On the back in faded ink, my mom had written, I always get what I need. I closed the lid. And didn't open it again. She saved me once. Then she made me pay for it forever. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived. A notice of civil litigation. She was suing me for intentional defamation and emotional damages. You ever look at your own name on a lawsuit and feel nothing? Not rage. Not fear. Just a kind of deep, exhausted clarity, like realizing the storm will come, whether you scream or whisper. The envelope was thick. The words were cold. She was suing me. Her own daughter. The person she left broken on a hospital bed, for ruining her reputation. Her complaint claimed I'd deliberately destroyed her social standing, that I'd sabotaged her financial recovery, and that my false accusations had caused lasting psychological trauma. False accusations. You ever read words so confidently wrong they almost convince you reality didn't happen? My lawyer read through it twice, then looked up and said, She's not trying to win. She's trying to scare you, drain you, punish you. I nodded. But the thing was, it didn't scare me. Not anymore. Because when someone sues you for telling the truth, that's not a fight, it's a confession. We filed a countersuit. Submitted everything. The fake loan applications. The forged documents. The audio files. The timeline. My therapist offered a sworn affidavit documenting the emotional abuse. So did my physician. So did Aunt Teresa. Because this time I didn't stand alone. What would you do if the only way to reclaim your life was to put your own mother on trial? The court date was set. Late October. 1 year and 3 weeks after the crash. She showed up in a beige blazer and pearls. Cried on the stand. Said she was just a mother doing her best. The judge listened. Nodded. Then they played the voicemail, the one where she called me unstable, where she said, I told them she's confused. She won't fight back. The courtroom went still. And for the first time, she didn't cry. She just stared at the table. As I left the courthouse, I passed by the building's glass door and caught my own reflection. No cast. No crutches. Just a woman in dark jeans and a blazer, holding her own paperwork. Walking. Alone. But whole. 3 weeks later, the ruling came down. Plaintiff's case dismissed. Defendant's countersuit settled. Monetary damages awarded, $6,000. Not a fortune, but enough to start over. Enough to paint new walls, replace the laptop she locked me out of, and pay off part of the debt that still bore my name. I bought a small apartment on the edge of town. Clean. White walls. A little balcony. On the first night, I made myself soup. The same kind she used to make. But this time I stirred the pot. And when I burned the onions, I smiled. Because at least now the mistake was mine. She hasn't contacted me since. Her accounts were flagged. She moved out of state. Last I heard, she was living with a friend. But it doesn't matter. She's not in my life. And more importantly, she's not in my head. People still say I'm brave, strong, resilient. What they don't say, what they can't know, is that healing isn't loud. It's quiet, private. It's learning how to trust your own memory again. It's realizing you weren't crazy, just cornered. She saved me once. Then she made me pay for it forever. But not anymore. I used to believe family was sacred. That no matter what, we owed them loyalty. Now I know. Family isn't who saves you once. It's who doesn't make you pay for surviving. If you've ever had to choose between peace and a parent, I'm just here to tell you you're not wrong for choosing peace. I still walk with a slight limp, but I walk where I choose. And that's enough.